Hey, I wanted to share what I've learned over the past few months about developing with AI. The first part of this video will go into actual development environments using AI to what's popularly called now as vibe coding. And then the second part of the video will be actually how to build on top of these LLMs or AI, specifically around the retrieval augmented generation architecture. All right, so let's jump in. Most of the development environments look something like this. This is a screenshot cursor. It feels very similar to Windsurf on the desktop, but if you're using any of the IDEs like Replit or Bolt Lovable, they essentially have the same structure as well. On the left-hand side, you'll find all of the files within your system and folders. The middle part of it will have the actual code itself. Underneath that, you'll have some sort of like terminal or more like structured no UI section. And then on the right hand side, you would have the chat interface with the AI agent, which helps you develop the application. What it'll be doing here is manipulating both files and the code within it. And in most of these systems, you'll have the ability to view what the application looks like. I've just popped it out here, but sometimes it could be run locally here to view too. Okay. Um, as you're developing, you don't have to develop on your own. The best practice we see is pulling down libraries or using some sort of external prototyping tool. So the first part is libraries, things like Magic UI, which is built on top of the Shad CN UI. They work with Vercel, which again is built on top of Tailwind. You'll almost always use that CSS library. You can basically pull down all the stuff from GitHub and it is locally able to run here. And then you code on top of it. So you don't have to code or develop this from scratch with the AI. And then either using like a framer in Figma or these programs like Subframe, which allows you to visually prototype or develop. And again, pull down those libraries and the development UI that you build directly into your AI development environment. It's going to help a ton. So you're not building this entirely from scratch, and you can use some of those frameworks to help you build it all together. So essentially, how it will go is you start out with some of those frameworks. You then chat with the AI on a lot of these. At least a few months ago, they were using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. Anthropic has updated it to 3.7. And honestly, OpenAI, ChatGPT, and Google Gemini is getting very, very good at coding as well. So some of these systems will auto choose based on the prompt for this part of it. And once you start developing, most of these are able to integrate with Git or GitHub is a popular service, so you can take snapshots and you can revert the system back to it. AI makes a ton of mistakes, overwrites your code all the time, so it's nice to have those snapshots in time before you do any official releases. Here on the application side, what will happen either in your environment or you can pop it out into a new window or locally if you're developing like an Electron desktop app, is you will be able to see how this thing feels. So you'll just ask the environment over here to like run a local development environment. You go to the URL here or pull up Electron, you can play around with it. If there's any errors or if you want to redesign it, you take screenshots, you paste it back into the chat over here, and you're able to iterate really, really quickly with live prototype instead of using some sort of design system to replicate what it would feel like. And then once you're ready to deploy this thing from prototype to like an actual version, some of the systems like Replit do the build for you. You can build locally here within the environment, or you can use an external system like Vercel to be able to run the build and actually allow you to produce the thing with a URL where people can log in or access your software application. So that's essentially the flow. Oh, well, one thing that I often do is I write a MD markdown file for the product requirement doc. What this allows me to do, either write it natively in these things, they allow you to write text or like a Obsidian or copy and paste from Google Docs. I always reference back the PRD. Sometimes the AI forgets or the context window is too big and you have to start a new chat and it forgets about the history. always point back to the PRD and update it as you go through. That allows you to have like a consistent structure or framework around what you're developing. It doesn't override or get confused about where you're going with it. Okay, so that's the first part of it. The second part is actually building with AI applications. It's kind of awfully conceptual and like four-dimensional, so I try to make it into 2D. I'll start describing with this one, and then maybe we'll move up to the other one to explain. So a lot of these AI applications, what you want to do is build a RAG system or retrieval augmented generation. You're asking the LLM through user instructions or prompts with some sort of reference library. Oftentimes, this is like company information, knowledge base, spreadsheets, any sort of like generated things or guidance that will help the LLM like correctly respond. So even things like the writing style, examples, brand tone, all of that really, really helps the response. And sometimes this process of changing what the prompt is and what you feed it and refining it, that's called like fine tuning. You can get these models like really, really close to, 90, 95% instead of hallucinating at like a 60% accuracy. So oftentimes, let's say that this is like the user interface here on the left-hand side, is it's a chat interface, point and click, you drag stuff into um, an upload here, and there's a set of instructions. Um, and then you pull in the reference. If this is too large, sometimes what you can do is you can chop it up into something called vector database, which just allows it to query more easily and pull in stuff that's more relevant to the LLM instead of like providing a huge, huge library of stuff. And then what will happen is the LLM will read all this prompt as well as like any system level instructions for like how to go about the task. We'll then go through all the information, then spit back and write back a response. This response can be text if it's like a normal chat. Other times it could be like a JSON blob, and then you're like reinterpreting it into the artifact of the user interface that you see here on the left-hand side. So almost all things that are built with AI have at least like a lightweight RAG design here. And two things to call out. So the first is when you're building this interface, a lot of times it's chat, but people are starting to move away from that. And the second thing is the more you can verticalize this sort of prompt and get like a tighter definition and not have it super general, this LLM is going to return much better results. So I think a lot of the innovation is going to happen on that side of it. I think this illustration is essentially the same, just another way to think about it. You have some sort of task with input from the user. You have some sort of context. Both of those get like bolted into this prompt. The prompt can also pass forward like what the AI should be doing, like how they should think, and examples of really good responses in the past for them to reference. The LM does their magic, and then they write back some sort of output, either in this example to a table, so it'd probably be a JSON and parse it, or it might be just like a simple text, like in a chat response. All right, that's more or less everything I've learned.